In a quiet Texas town, a secret unfolded that changed everything between a cowboy and a desperate woman. What she took off wasn't just an object, it was a choice that couldn't be undone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Where are you watching from? Let's get started. The sun sank low over the Arizona desert, painting the sky in strokes of crimson and gold. The heat shimmered across the open land, and a lone cowboy rode through it, his hat tilted low, his eyes hidden beneath the brim, his horse moving steady and silent. Luke Carson had spent his life on dusty trails and under endless skies. People called him the Quiet Rider, a man who spoke little and trusted even less. But that evening, as the wind whispered through the dry grass, something in the air felt different, like the world was holding its breath. He reached the edge of an old, forgotten ranch, one that had once belonged to the McCallans before drought and debt swallowed their dreams. Now the fences were broken, the barn half collapsed, and the windmill squeaked like a ghost's voice. Luke pulled the reins, stopping to water his horse at a cracked trough. That's when he heard it, a sharp, panicked cry echoing from the distance. His hand instinctively went to the revolver at his side. He listened again. The cry came once more, closer this time, laced with fear. Luke swung off the saddle, boots crunching against the sand. "Who's there?" he called, his voice low but firm. From behind a tangle of brush, a young woman stumbled into the open. Her dress was torn, her face streaked with dirt, and her eyes wide with terror. She clutched something around her neck, a small leather cord with a silver pendant attached. When she saw him, she froze like a cornered deer. "Please," she whispered. "You have to help me." "They're coming." Luke's grip on his gun tightened. He scanned the horizon. There was no one yet, but the sound of engines was faint on the wind. "Who's coming?" he asked. The woman swallowed hard. "Men, they work for a company or something worse. They won't stop until they find me." Her voice trembled, her fingers clutching the pendant so tight her knuckles went white. Luke frowned. "What's that you're holding?" he asked. She hesitated, glancing down at it. "It's not just jewelry," she said quietly. "It's a tracker. I took it off, but they'll still find me. It was made to locate something hidden in this desert." Luke's eyes narrowed. "Something hidden?" he repeated. "What exactly are we talking about?" Before she could answer, the roar of two black trucks cut through the air. Dust exploded behind them as they raced down the trail toward the ranch. Luke grabbed her by the arm. "Inside," he ordered. They sprinted into the half-collapsed barn, ducking behind a wall of old hay bales. Through the cracks, he could see the trucks stopping just a few yards away. Armed men stepped out, rough, uniformed, their movements too organized to be ordinary criminals. "You sure know how to bring trouble," Luke muttered. She looked at him with wide eyes. "I didn't mean to, I couldn't let them find it." Gunfire erupted, splinters flying as bullets tore into the wooden walls. Luke ducked, pulling his revolver free. He returned fire with precision, hitting the radiator of one truck and sending steam gushing out. "What the hell did you steal?" he shouted over the chaos. The woman's voice cracked. "It's not stolen, it's discovered. I was part of a research team working in the desert. We found something buried, metal, old, dangerous. The government shut us down, but these men came instead. I didn't trust them. I took the data core and ran. It's in the pendant." Luke's jaw clenched. "And now they're here for it." The barn filled with smoke and dust. The woman coughed, covering her mouth. Luke reloaded quickly, his hands steady despite the chaos. He'd faced outlaws before, but this was something different. Tactical, calculated, almost military. "Stay low," he ordered, crawling toward a side door. When the firing paused, he kicked it open and returned fire, dropping one of the attackers. "Move!" he barked, pulling her toward the back of the barn. They darted into the open, racing toward the stables. The moon had risen, silver light glinting off the sand as they dove behind a pile of old boards. "They won't stop," she whispered, trembling. "They can't. They want what's buried." Luke looked at her, really looked at her. Despite the dirt and fear, there was something sharp and intelligent in her eyes, the kind of fire that didn't come from running, but from fighting back. "What's your name?" he asked. "Claire," she said softly. "Claire Bennett." "All right, Claire." Luke replied, scanning the ridge. "We'll get you out of here." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Once you help me, you're part of it. They'll never stop." He gave a small, humorless smile. "Lady, I've been running from people my whole life. Guess I'm overdue to start running towards something." Engines roared again. More trucks coming. Luke cursed under his breath. "How many are there?" Claire asked. "Too many," he replied. He helped her mount his horse and climbed up behind her. "Hold on tight." They shot off into the desert, the wind ripping through their hair as bullets chased them through the dark. The landscape blurred, rocks, cacti, and shadows all blending into a single streak of motion. The men followed close behind, headlights bouncing across the dunes. Luke pulled the reins hard, turning sharply into a narrow canyon that twisted like a snake. "They'll lose us in here," he said. The sound of pursuit faded, replaced by the quiet rustle of wind and distant coyotes. Luke slowed the horse to a stop near an outcropping of stone. Both of them were breathing hard, covered in dust and sweat. Claire looked around nervously. "How do you do that?" she asked. "Ride like you've done it your whole life." Luke smirked faintly. "Because I have." He jumped down, helping her off the saddle. "We'll camp here until morning." Claire hesitated, staring at the pendant in her hand. "You should have left me," she said softly. "This isn't your fight." Luke met her eyes. "It is now." She sat beside the small campfire he lit, her face illuminated by the flickering glow. "You don't understand," she murmured. "That thing buried out there, it's not just metal. It's a weapon, one they tried to erase from history." Luke leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Then maybe it's time someone made sure it stays buried." She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "If they find it, they'll start a war." Luke stared into the fire for a long moment before speaking. "Then I guess we've got work to do." The wind howled softly through the canyon, and the stars burned brighter above. Far in the distance, the rumble of engines echoed faintly, a reminder that the danger wasn't over. Claire glanced at him, fear flickering in her eyes. "They'll track us by sunrise," she whispered. Luke stood, checking his rifle. "Then we move before dawn." He looked out toward the endless desert, his silhouette cut sharp against the starlight. "You said you took it off," he muttered. "That means they know it's missing." She nodded. "They'll kill to get it back." Luke's voice dropped low. "Then they'll have to come through me." The cowboy's eyes hardened, and in that silent desert night, Luke Carson knew. There was no turning back. The cold wind swept across the canyon as dawn began to break, washing the desert in pale silver light. Luke Carson stood beside his horse, staring out at the horizon where the world seemed endless. Claire was still half asleep beside the dying fire, her pendant glinting faintly in the sand. The cowboy's mind raced. He wasn't sure what he had just stepped into, but he knew it was bigger than a simple chase. Whatever was buried out there had drawn blood before, and it was about to draw more. The desert was silent, but Luke knew silence never lasted long. When Claire stirred, she looked around nervously. Her face was pale, lips dry, and eyes tired from sleepless fear. "We can't stay here," she whispered, her voice raw. "They'll send drones, trackers, they'll find us." Luke nodded, tossing her a canteen. "Drink, then we move." She obeyed quietly, but her hands trembled as she drank. "You don't have to help me," she said after a moment. "Once I tell you everything, you'll wish you hadn't." Luke smirked faintly, tightening his saddle straps. "Lady, I've made worse mistakes." She didn't smile back. She only looked at the pendant, then closed her fist around it. As the sun rose higher, they rode through the canyon, heading toward the wasteland beyond. The wind kicked up the sand like waves of gold dust, blurring the horizon. Claire spoke quietly as they rode. "The thing buried in the desert. It was found by accident during an excavation near the old missile test sites. A craft not made by any nation. The company I worked for took control of it, called it Project Serpent. They said it was technology, but it was more like a heart, alive." Luke frowned. "You're saying it's not human?" She shook her head. "It's not." Luke's expression hardened, but he didn't interrupt. When they realized it could absorb energy, Claire continued, they wanted to weaponize it. They said it could end wars, but I saw what it did to the first test team. It killed them, drained the power out of everything around. I took the data core, the only piece that could locate where it's buried, and I ran. Her voice cracked. Now they'll kill anyone who knows. Luke looked at her with quiet disbelief, then simply said, Guess that explains why the bastards are shooting at you. Claire gave a broken laugh. Yeah, lucky me. They reached an old mining town by midday, a ghost of wood and silence, its saloon half collapsed, its sign barely hanging on. Luke tied the horse behind an abandoned stable and scanned the empty streets. We'll rest here, he said. Claire hesitated. Someone might find us. That's the point, he replied. If they do, I'll know who we're up against. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memories. Luke found an old lantern and lit it. Claire sat at a table, tracing the cracks in the wood with her finger. You've done this before, haven't you? She asked softly. Run from danger? Luke poured some water into a tin cup. All my life, he said simply. You get used to it. The noise, the silence, and the regret that comes between. He looked at her, his gaze steady. But this is different. This time there's something worth protecting. Claire's throat tightened. No one had ever said that to her before. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the desert wind howling outside. Then suddenly the faint hum of engines broke the calm. Luke's hand went to his gun instantly. He blew out the lantern, whispering, They found us. Claire's eyes widened. Already? The trucks appeared at the edge of town, headlights slicing through the dust. Men in tactical gear spread out, weapons drawn. Luke motioned for Claire to stay low. You go out that back door, take the horse, and ride east, he said quietly. What about you? She asked. He checked his revolver. I'll buy you time. She grabbed his arm. Luke, no. You can't fight them alone. His voice was calm but final. Wasn't asking for permission. She hesitated, tears brimming in her eyes, then nodded. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, he said with a small grin. Just ride. When she slipped out the back, Luke stepped into the street. The sun was blazing now, and the air shimmered with heat. He stood tall in the middle of the road, revolver in hand, hat casting a shadow across his face. The men spotted him immediately. Drop your weapon! One of them shouted. Luke didn't move. You boys picked the wrong town, he said, voice low and dangerous. Then the gunfire erupted. The first wave of bullets tore into the saloon behind him, but Luke was already moving, firing clean, precise shots that hit their marks. Dust exploded around him as chaos broke loose. Claire heard the shots echo through the canyon as she rode. Her heart pounded, each gunfire like a hammer to her chest. She wanted to turn back, but she knew if she did, Luke's sacrifice would mean nothing. Tears blurred her vision as she clutched the pendant tight. The tracker still pulsed faintly, a small red light that refused to die. She had one chance left. She turned her horse toward the canyon where it all began. If they want the source, she whispered, they can have it, just not alive. The desert wind carried her words like a prayer. Back in the town, Luke was bleeding. A bullet had grazed his shoulder, another his leg. But he didn't stop. He fought with the fury of a man who had nothing left to lose and one thing left to protect. When the last attacker fell, silence swept over the town again. Luke leaned against a post, breathing hard, vision fading. Through the haze of dust and pain, he saw a glimmer of movement, the last truck speeding away, heading toward the desert. Claire, he whispered, pushing himself upright. He grabbed his rifle and stumbled toward his horse. The chase wasn't over. By dusk, he found her near the ridge, standing before a massive crack in the earth, the same place she had found the buried hatch. The pendant's light glowed brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Claire! He shouted, but she turned to him, eyes shining with both fear and resolve. It's waking up, Luke, she said. It senses the pendant. The ground trembled beneath their feet. A deep hum filled the air, like thunder trapped underground. Luke limped toward her. Then destroy it, he yelled. She shook her head. If I destroy it, it'll release the energy. It'll kill us both. He reached her, grabbing her shoulders. Then what do we do? He demanded. She looked at him, tears spilling down her cheeks. We bury it again, for good. Together they pushed rocks and debris over the opening, their strength fueled by desperation. The humming grew louder, the sand vibrating beneath their boots. Luke wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close as the ground erupted in a flash of blinding light. Then silence. When the dust settled, the hatch was gone, buried deep once more. Claire trembled in his arms, breath ragged. Is it over? She whispered. Luke looked toward the horizon, where the last rays of sun burned across the sky. For now, he said quietly. They stood there for a long moment before she took off the pendant and dropped it into the sand. It sank slowly, swallowed by the desert that kept more secrets than the world would ever know. Luke mounted his horse, reaching out a hand to help her up. Where will we go? She asked softly. He looked at her, a faint smile beneath his dust-covered face. Anywhere but here. The horse turned toward the fading light, and together they rode into the horizon. The wind howled across the empty canyon, whispering through the sand where the pendant had fallen. The desert held its silence once again. But somewhere deep beneath the earth, the faintest pulse of red light flickered and died. Luke and Claire disappeared into the distance, two souls bound by danger, sacrifice, and something neither of them dared to name. Behind them, the sky bled into darkness, and the cowboy knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, there was no turning back.